everyone! Today, I am going to discuss the 3 remaining topics included in Unit 2. My name is Zarina Pajarillaga, and let me begin the discussion. The first topic is Observing Classroom Management Strategies. It is included in Domain number 2, which is the Learning Environment, and Domain number 3, which is the Diversity of Learners of the Philippine Professional Standards for Teachers, or PPST. Here, we have to observe the classroom environment, management, student-to-student interaction, teacher-to-student interaction, lesson planning and observations, transitional periods from one subject to another or one classroom to another. So here, we have to look into the activities of our cooperating teacher and observe the manner on how he or she manages the following. So collecting teaching materials or aids, assisting with clubs, drama groups or music groups, demonstrating specific subject matter, working with individual students, putting information on chalkboards or whiteboards, assisting with lunchroom or playground supervision, arranging bulletin boards, assisting with reading groups, completing housekeeping duties, helping plan classroom work, assisting with testing and scoring, assist with study groups, and reviewing library and media resources. So the next topic is observing questioning as a teaching learning tool. So here it is included in the domain number 1, which is the content, knowledge, and pedagogy, and domain number 2, learning environment, and domain number 3 as well, diversity of learners of the Philippine Professional Standards for Teachers, or PPST. So there are some things that you can look for while you are doing successful questioning. So why do you ask questions? So when you were young, you ask questions frequently. This way, you learn the best. As you get older perhaps, because you're sick of addressing people around you, you just stop asking. So asking questions in the classroom is the best way to promote learning. So this must be the goal, to encourage the students to ask the questions. In the end, your job is to prepare for this to happen. So why do you need to ask questions to your learners? So what impact might you have to them? So seemingly, you ask questions because you want to assess what they heard, to build the skills, to think, to promote discussions about learning, to model the methods used in questioning, for further clarification, to allow the students to discuss their attitudes or feelings, helping students see a new perspective, asking one student to refine an idea, directing students to respond to each other, to inspire students to study an outcome, asking students to forecast those results, and to encourage students to interact and organize the information, and lastly, to ask students to offer an example of a definition. And also, good questioning can have a lot of students interested, more students included, more students are learning, and spark of dialogue and critical thought, inspire deeper learning, ignite creativity, generate enthusiasm, and give fast and clear change. When you are observing, look out for the following. First, note how the teacher sets out the questions. Second, list the questions asked. Third, observe if there is a gender bias in the questions. Fourth, remember interactions while creating answers. Fifth, remember voice tone. And last but not the least, report on question distinction. So these are the popular mistakes you can spot in question, which may serve as a reminder for you in asking good questions. So first, asking so many questions straight away. Second, ask a question and answer it by yourself. Third, ask just the best or most likable questions. Fourth, too early to ask a serious question. Fifth, asking uncomfortable questions. Sixth, still ask the same questions. Seventh, leading questions in a threatening way. 8. Not to indicate a change in question type. 9. Do not use test answers. 10. Do not give students time to think. 11. Failing to see the implications of the responses. And 12. Not relying on responses. So the last topic is observing execution of a full lesson. This topic is included in domain number 7, which is the Personal Growth and Professional Development of the Philippine Professional Standard for Teachers, or PPST. So whether you are working on your teaching certificate or being checked by an official, during your teaching career, you will also have to carry out a lesson plan. Many teachers consider lesson plans to be valuable resources for planning the classroom experience. From beginning teachers, who are often expected to have comprehensive lesson plans approved by supervisors, all the way to the most experienced veterans who use them as a way to keep on track and make sure the learning atmosphere is efficient and thorough for each course. No matter what your level of experience or the purpose you need a lesson plan, when it's time to develop one, make sure it contains the 8 important components and you'll be on your way to achieving the goal of each teacher. Measurable learning for students. Writing a good lesson plan would also allow you to easily update lessons for future classes, ensuring that your content stays important year after year without having to reinvent the wheel completely every time. So first, we have the objectives and goals. So the goals of the lesson need to be clearly established and in accordance with the local and or state educational standards. The reason you set targets and objectives is to make sure you know what you are trying to accomplish within the class. It lets you decide what the students are expected to take away from the lesson and how you are going to make sure they learn in the content at hand. So next is the anticipatory set. So before you dig into the meat of your lesson, it is essential to set the stage for your students by tapping into their prior knowledge and setting a framework for the objectives. You explain what you are going to say and or to post to your students in the anticipatory section before the direct instruction portion of the lesson begins. It is a perfect way to make sure that you are able to present the content and can do it in such a way that your students can easily relate to it. So next is direct instruction. So it is the segment where you will specifically delineate how you will explain the concepts of the lesson to your students. So your direct instruction methods may involve reading a book, displaying diagrams, displaying real-life examples of the subject matter, or using props. So consideration of the various learning styles within your class is critical in deciding which teaching strategies can better resonate. Often, imagination will work well to get students interested and help them understand the content. So next is guided practice. So very simply, this is the moment that you are supervising and directing the students to practice what they have learned so far. So under your guidance, students are given the opportunity to practice and apply the skills that you taught them through direct training. So for example, students might work together in small groups to solve word problems similar to a word problem that you discussed during the lesson's direct instruction. So guided practice activities can be described as learning either individually or in cooperation. So next is closure. So in this section on closure, explain how you can tie up the lesson by giving your students extra meaning to the lesson concepts. So closure is the moment when you finalize the lesson and help students organize the knowledge in their minds into concrete meanings. So the closing process may involve engaging the students in a group discussion about the main topics of the lesson, or asking individual students to summarize what they have learned. So another one is independent practice. So the students will show by homework assignments or other individual tasks that they have grasped the learning goals of the lesson. So common independent practice activities include worksheets for homework or community projects at home. So through independent practice, students have the ability to develop the skills and synthesize their new knowledge by completing a task on their own and away from the guidance of their teacher. So the next one is required materials and equipment. So here, you must decide what resources are needed to help your students achieve the specified objectives of the lesson plan. So the section of materials needed is not addressed directly to the students, but instead is written for the teacher's own reference and as a checklist before the lesson begins. So that's part of your own planning. And lastly, assessment and follow-up. So the lesson doesn't end until the students have completed a worksheet. So one of the most critical aspects of every lesson plan is the evaluation portion. So it is where you determine the final result of the lesson and how far the learning goals have been achieved. So for most cases, the assessment would take the form of an exam or a quiz, but assessments may also involve for-depth class discussions or presentations. So that's the end of my report. Thank you so much for listening and have a good day.